So welcome to Take Flight, the running track. I'm so happy you guys are all here. If you don't already know me, I'm Jen. I'm the communications coordinator for Team RWB, and I'm going to be the moderator for this discussion. So just a couple of notes to start off. Please keep your mics on mute. We have quite a few people on right now, so I just want to make sure we can hear our speakers. And if you have any questions, type them in the chat.
I don't know if I want to do a
as many questions
Zoom call on a Sunday.
with the time that we have allotted. So first up, let me introduce everyone. We have the only runner in history to win the New York City Marathon, the Boston Marathon, and medal in the Olympics. He is a 23-time national champion and a 4-time Olympian. So welcome,
Very good, Dave.
Keflezighi. We're so happy you're here, Meb.
Oh, I meant to turn it off. I turned off my phone and it was still going on.
Senior Vice President of CEP Compression, an Army veteran, and a 12-time JFK 50 finisher, Luke Rowe. We're so glad you're here, Luke.
Not quite as illustrious as Ned.
And then we have USA Track and Field Certified Running Coach, Air Force veteran, and the Team RWB for Pittsburgh, Sean Buzzard, who is also going to be your running coach for the next 4 weeks. So happy you're here, Sean.
Glad to be here.
All right, so I would love to start with you. Can you just tell us a little bit about when you started running and what your running journey has looked like?
Thank you, Jennifer, for the wonderful introduction, and thanks to Luke and CEP and Maddie for this opportunities for Team Red, White, and Blue. It's a great honor to be with you guys. And Sean, thank you for the opportunity to make these people better and keep them going strong. So it's always a team effort. And for me, running started when I was in 7th grade PE class, a coach named by Dick Lord. I was an immigrant, didn't speak English, so PE class said, if you run hard, you're gonna get A or B or get a t-shirt. Well, to do that, you have to run 6:15, and it wasn't around the track, 4 taps around the track or by any means. It was more about the baseball field, go to the middle of the campus, over the ramp, around the softball field, and then finish in the middle of the campus. And 6:15 with the automatic A, and I end up running 5:20. And he looked at his watch and says, "You're gonna go to the Olympics," but I don't know what the word Olympic meant. I have to ask my dad that evening what the word Olympic meant. And, my oldest brothers ran. So I wanted to be like them. So I said, well, where's the t-shirt? And did I get A in the class? All I care for. And Olympics. And I'm like, well, t-shirt. And that's how I learned, and that's how I introduced. And ever since, I fell in love with it. And I think the beauty of running is the progress you make every week, every month, every year. So you just got to be patient and have fun with it. And for me, it's been a wonderful change in my life.
Incredible. Thanks for sharing, Meb. So Luke, I want to hop over to you for a second. Can you tell us a little bit about CEP compression and what compression here is?
Well, so compression is a word that's used often in athletics, and mostly it just means tight in athletics. But we come from a medical world. Compression is the largest producer of medical compression. And in that context, it has to be graduated and it has to facilitate blood flow. So compression is used for people with serious issues with lymphedema and all sorts of issues with swelling and heart issues and blood flow issues. And so for us, compression means that, and that's the benefit in CEP products, is that you get actual verified medical grade compression in your socks, which helps facilitate blood flow, recovery, and things like that. But it's buyer beware in the athletic market because it's not regulated. In the medical market, it's highly regulated. And so, but that's the world we live in. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thanks, Luke. So, Meb, what advice do you have? We have a lot of people on here who have been running for a long time, but we also have a lot of people who signed up for this track because they've never really been a runner. So what advice do you have for those people who are just beginning their running journeys?
One and foremost, I want to say congratulations for giving running a shot. I mean, that's whether you've been doing it for the first time or you've been doing it for many decades, is something that is very rewarding. And it's very great sense of accomplishment. And I think my advice to that would be make small progress. Don't try to, especially if you are a new runner, you might be running with somebody who's been running for 10 years, 7 years, 5 years. So don't try to be competitive with them. Be your own. That's the beauty of running. You could be within your pace. And also routine is important. You know, sometimes in New Year resolution, everybody's excited, want to get fitness, want to be healthy. And then come March or April, it's kind of down a little bit. So routine is important. What's the best time for you to work? To run? Is that in the morning? Is it, some of you might do lunchtime, or some people do it after work. So you have to stick to that routine. And I think most importantly, also have fun. You know, like Luke said, I think there's a lot of tools like the CEP compression socks. I've been, you know, I went to actually Munich to be able to see the headquarters. So the certified through Medi is huge. I mean, the compression, everybody want to claim they got compression, but Medi or CEP is the only one that could have done an amazing job. So, and use this, you know, for the new one beginners, there's a lot of gears, a lot of equipment. You know, you have to do your search and use that to help you, whether it's with the blood flow or mileage and things like that. For me, I've been very fortunate to be able to work with them.
Awesome. So I have another question for you, Meb. As an elite runner, do you ever have a bad running day, or like just are not motivated to get out there and do the run that you had planned? And if so, how do you break through that? Do you have any tips on staying motivated and maybe trying not to hit that wall? Or if you do, how do you break through it?
Jennifer, we're all humans before we are athletes. You know, it is go through the ups and downs of life. And sometimes, you know, the weather can be a detector of, oh, if I should go run or should I go run? It's cold. There's, you know, there's so many things that for lack of motivation. But, you know, for me has been that I know as a lead runner, I knew somebody else going to train harder, try to beat me. So, you know what, I better get out the door. The hardest thing for the elite athlete and for anybody that runs is the first part, getting out of the shoe. Getting out the door, tying your shoes, go over the first few steps. After that, you're like, oh, I'm glad I did that run. You feel thrilled that you did. But at the same time, when you're in the house, if it's windy, if it's cold, or the temperature's not to your liking, and you kind of try to delay it. But eventually when you get it done, you're like, you know, I'm so glad I did it. And the one thing that I would say is it would be good if you can meet with somebody. You know, accountability is important. Say, hey, let's meet with somebody, or whether it's in the same area of neighborhood, or meeting them somewhere. And when you make that, you're gonna be able to get out, and then you're gonna have a fun.
Great advice. Thank you. So Luke, can you give us some of the benefits that compression socks give to runners?
There's two primary benefits, and one is you're aware when you run, you're impacting the ground with 3 to 4 times your weight, right? So if you're 225 pounds like I am, that's a lot of weight impacting every time you take a step. And running is a very brutal sport, especially over time. So the first thing it does, and almost every product out there labeled compression will do this, is it's going to stabilize that muscle. Now, the research is a little bit mixed, but the anecdotal evidence is significant that if you can reduce the rock and roll of your muscles every time you take a step, it will reduce fatigue. The second thing that real compression will do for you is it keeps the blood flowing. And so you're actually beginning your recovery while you're doing your activity, right? So the best thing you can do for recovery is don't deplete yourself completely when you're out doing that activity, right? But if you're racing or you're doing things like that, it's hard not to do. So the second thing is when you use graduated compression, you keep the blood moving, you keep the blood from settling in your feet, and you reduce that fatigue. Now, you don't eliminate fatigue and you can't eliminate pain, but afterwards, you've got a head start on recovering. And so we like to call our socks sort of legalized steroids, because it allows you to train more frequently, more often, and stay healthy. So that's basically the two methodologies. One, any sock will do. The others, basically, you got to find a real graduated sock, and it will facilitate your recovery.
Sounds great. Meb, at what point in your running career did you start wearing compression socks, and what difference did you see?
Well, as Luke just alluded to, I mean, if you haven't had a pair of socks of the CP compression socks, you better go get it, because I mean, all those advantages that he talked about, from blood circulation and fatigueness, you know, we all work hard. And like he says, you cannot avoid pain or fatigueness, but you rather have a mile 23 or 24 versus mile 17 or 18. So getting to that finish line is important. And for me, I've been very fortunate to be introduced to compression early on. And 2004, after the became Olympic medalist. But I've been very, very fortunate with CEP compression socks for almost my entire running career. And it's wonderful that, you know, I might be in the starting line with compression socks, high socks, but, you know, not just high socks. It's something really advantage for me. And, you know, you're gonna run 26.2 miles or 13.1 miles, and you might as well have that head start, like Luke said, because it helps you not get fatigued on mile 10 versus going for 13.1 mile. If I'm, you know, for me, if I'm running a marathon, I know I'm having an advantage and use it to my liking and to my, been smart. I mean, everybody has run stores and they can get those, but I don't know why they don't use it. And for me, it's been very advantageous. And, you know, you hit the wall. Sometimes, you know, we all talk about the wall. You rather hit the wall mile 24 or 25 if you can avoid it. And I think CEP and is there to help people make sure you do that. So instead of 18 and say, well, I got, you know, 8 miles to go or whatnot, and kind of be worried, you rather say, I just got to top it out the last mile or two by having the compression sock.
Thank you. So Luke, another question for you. How can runners get the best recovery when wearing the compression gear?
Well, as Mev always says, it's a combination of things. So the best thing you can do is you actually have to wear them. But anyone who's put on really good compression socks, know that's not always the easiest task, right? Sometimes it's just easy to put on a no-show sock. But you want to wear them during your activities. So particularly, you know, nobody wants to do it necessarily every single day except for Meb. Meb does, he wears them to sleep. But what you want to do is you want to wear them during your more difficult workouts. It doesn't always have to be a long run, and a long run is relative. If you're going to run your first 5K, guess what? A 2-mile run is a long run. But you want to wear them during the activity. But if you're not going to do that, then what you want to do is slip them on for a couple hours after you finish your activity to sort of elevate your feet and let the blood flow and let that recover. You need to get the toxins out of those muscles as quickly as possible. But for me, it was a discovery back when I was 48 years old, and I was in Germany at the Berlin Marathon with stress fractures, and somebody suggested I try CEP. It was long before I started working for CEP, and you know, I felt the difference immediately. One run, I knew like something was going on there, and I haven't had stress fractures in the 12 years since I've been wearing them. So I can't stress enough, you got to wear them during your activity or your race in order to benefit the most afterwards. So that's the single best advice I can give you, is start your recovery during your exercising, and you'll feel much better afterwards.
Awesome advice, thanks. All right, so we're about halfway through with our 30 minutes. So I think maybe we have time for one more question. I know a lot of you have been putting questions in the chat. So I'm gonna pick one and we'll go with that. For Meb, what kind of cross training helps while training for long distance running?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been when I was at UCLA, where I went to school, I did agua jogging. Biking is important. But elliptical has been another big instrument for me to be able to just, you know, it's not elliptical in the gym, but elliptical where you take it outside. And, you know, for me, as I got older, I started supplementing that in my afternoon run. You can go for an hour and a half versus doing a 3 to 4 mile run in the evening. So, and sometimes don't wait until you get injured. You know, there's a lot of, like we talked about, prevention that you can do before you get injured, and then do other cross training, whether it's biking or elliptical riding. I think it's very important because you're not doing the pounding. But as Luke said earlier, it's for me, I've been wearing CEP compression socks for my entire career, for marathoning almost, and I would wear it for my training. Sometimes I would do second run, so I still have it on, and then also, they have recovery ones that are socks also that help you recover after you take the other socks off. And then also when I travel, when I travel on a flight, I always have them on. So it's something that you have to constantly think, what can I do to do better, or what can I do to recover? And that's where CEP comes.
Thank you so much. So we're just over our halfway point. And I know, Meb, you said you had to hop off at this point. So I just want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your Sunday to be here with us and answer our questions. And you gave incredible advice and tips, and we appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Team Red, White, and Blue, and Luke, and CEP. Keep up the great work, everybody. 2021 is around the corner, new beginning and new resolution, and be able to just keep at it. And hopefully we see most of you soon in person. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So at this point, I am going to turn it over to your running coach, Sean Buzzard, who has some advice for you, and we'll take some of your questions as well. And Luke, you're more than welcome to stay on. I understand if you want to hop off, it is Sunday. So it's totally up to you, but I'm gonna hand it over to Sean now.
Thank you. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Glad to see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd there. I'm glad you're all on board with us for Take Flight into 2021. I'll give you a really brief, I have, again, like Luke said, I don't have quite the running background as Meb does, but I started off as a sprinter in a track and field in high school, and went on to compete in college as a sprinter, middle distance runner. And when I actually started coaching track and field shortly after, while I was still in college. And when I joined the Air Force, I was able to compete in things like field day, doing some medley relays where I ran like 600 meters or 800 meters as part of a relay. But as I got further and further along, there was less of a chance to kind of compete at that. There's not much of a calling for sprinting and 800-meter runs when you're just out in the real world plugging along as a enlisted person working in Minot, North Dakota. So I know for a while I did some things like participated in like the state games, but eventually what I found was I wanted to still be part of that running community, and much like Team Red, White, and Blue, you just want to be a part of kind of like an atmosphere where things are very, you're with a group that's all kind of like-minded. So I started signing up for 5Ks and 10Ks just to motivate myself, if I figured I'd schedule a run 3 months down the road, it would just keep me motivated, give me a plan. But also just, I enjoyed that running community. And then I, again, began coaching track and field again. So I had to go and learn level 1 certification. They kind of give you a broad overview of all things track and field, sprinting, field events. And that was kind of my first foray where I learned about endurance running, where, again, for me, there's no cookie cutter stamp thing for runners. Luke kind of mentioned, I'm in that same fold too, where I'm 208 pounds, and when I show up to sign up for half marathons, they immediately go, "Oh, we'll just put you right in the Clydesdale division." You're a lot of impact on your knees, so it's important to do those things like compression and focus on mobility and stretching. So a lot of things that we'll talk about and be available here for you. A couple things that were said earlier on, like this is a team effort. I know, just looking at the screen here, there's probably just so many different types of runners that are out there. again, we mentioned if you're just trying this for the first time and you're that couch to 5K person, it's going to look a lot different to you than a person that's, you know, been putting in miles all the time. So you're going to need a team help, you know, a team effort. So as I took some of the endurance courses, you know, they teach you, there's a lot of runners get out there for that endorphin, you know, release. They just want to get out there and run. I think, and that always makes me think of Forrest Gump, where he just goes and I'm just going to run, and he runs and runs and runs. But running like that without a plan, without kind of control the chaos, right? I mean, you have to have that plan, and Jennifer's done a great job in providing us with a, you know, whether you're trying for that 5K or for that 10K, having that daily plan with different levels. I'm sure if you're on here, everyone's looked at it. And basically we're here to provide that, you know, do you have any questions? Do you need it further modified? Do you have any specific concerns that you would like addressed? I mean, that's kind of what we're here for, is to assist you and help you make it through that plan. And I know we've talked, all of these plans they don't quite fit into that 30-day window. And I know what I'd love to see is for, you know, you come to the end of that month and you're like, I want to finish this plan, or give you the rest of that, you know, whether it's the 5K or the 10K plan, and just kind of take that into the RWB's next big thing, which is Taji 100 in February. Just kind of flow, let the end of that plan carry you into those 100 miles that you need to knock out in February. So, and you know, there was questions already about cross training. The one thing I wanted to mention was, you know, Meb mentioned elliptical. I do think it's definitely important to avoid, you know, on those days where you're cross training, avoiding additional impact on your knees and your legs. So like doing those non-weight bearing things like an elliptical, a rower, a salt bike, something like that, where you're just not pounding your legs, and really focusing in on mobility. I think Luke mentioned, you know, getting those toxins out, and that's exactly the way that it was taught for me to coach. Was like, you know, after you're done, you got to think of it like a wash rag. You got to wring out that wash rag. So work those muscles with some stretching and mobility, you know, foam rolling, to get those things, you know, that lactic acid is build up in your muscles, get it out and get it moving. So I hope I answered. I see some questions were getting typed in there as we go along. So I don't know if that's something we want to head to now.
Sure.
Do you want to pick any of them, or do you want me to go through and pick them myself, or how do you want to do this?
You can go ahead and pick what questions you want to answer. I think you have about 3 or 4 there that are in the chat.
Okay. I'm looking at the one here about long runs for 10 miles or more. Is it okay to run without taking food other than water? Again, I don't know specific quick, you know, every runner is different as far as, you know, how you need to prepare and what you need to do, especially as far as like nutrition. But yeah, definitely it's a good plan to have some, you know, you're going to have to test whether you like the gels or like those little waffles, some of those things that are really get you quick energy. Definitely having, you know, it's definitely important to have that water. And as far as the certified running coach, there's multiple different certifying programs. I can tell you that United States Amateur Track and Field, again, the very first thing you have to do is to, and they've recently changed it where most of it you have to have a background check and pass the basic safety protocols, which now even includes some ethics, coaching ethics. And then, so like I said, the generic USATF teaches you just a little bit about each particular discipline in track and field. So you're going to learn, whether you want to or not, you're going to learn a little bit about sprinting, hurdles, the the vertical and horizontal jumps, the field events, and then foray into the distance. In fact, you even learn about some of the NCAA, like the steeplechase, and they just touch on some of the things that are college events. And then once you get level 1, you can go into the specific tracks. So you can focus on endurance running, or you can focus on the sprints. But there are different organizations that also strictly focus on running coach. So if you just want to focus on running versus any of the field events. 12-year-old moving up to a 10K from a 5K. Other than just, everyone definitely, like I said, no cookie cutter. Everyone has to listen to their own body. And first and foremost, for everybody, it doesn't matter how old you are, always checking in, making sure with a doctor to make sure that you don't have any current issues, making sure that this kind of plan is right for you, getting that physical. So I'm assuming as a 12-year-old, you're in school, you're getting those, if you're competing for a sports team, there's physical requirements. But beyond that, just making a leap up in distance, again, just going back to what I said about, don't just get out there and run, have a plan. So don't, you're going to have a day where you have the longer runs. You're going to have a day where you're maybe doing some track work to work on, just your finishes. So you're maybe just doing repeats of 400-meter dashes or repeats of 800-meter dashes. A day where it's, a few days where it's just cross training, where you're staying off the legs and working on some things, working on some abilities, again, on that rower, on that bike. But just following so like right now that 10K plan is great. It has multiple options on a daily basis, however you want. And someone asked Meb, does he have bad days? Of course we all do. So I know there's days where you get out there to run and you're just not feeling it. So, the nice thing about the plan that Jennifer's put together is if you get out there on a day and your game plan was to go with like the more advanced target for the day, but it's one of those days where you're just not, there's those days where you get out there to run and you just don't feel right. You can always scale it back and do the other plan, where it just might be an alternate walk run day, and then the next day you get out there, you're feeling good, and you go for the more advanced plan. Jen, you want to take it back over here? I see we got like 2 minutes left.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us, everyone. I want to give a special thanks to Meb and Luke for joining us. That was great advice, great tips we got. Super excited that you were able to join us. And I also want to just remind everyone that CEP Compression is offering us a special discount. So if you go to their website and enter the code RWB20, you'll get 20% off of their compression gear. So go ahead and check those out. And last thing, we'll see you next Sunday. So make sure you get your training in this week. And next Sunday, another Zoom call, same time, and we will see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.